The wind in Soho had teeth that night. It was late autumn, the kind of damp cold that gets right into the bones, even if you just walk from the subway station. I pulled the collar of my thin coat tighter. My scrubs were still underneath. I had been a pediatric emergency room nurse for 12 years, and I was tired. Tired deep down. The kind of exhaustion that sleep does not fix. My paycheck was late, again. The hospital administration kept talking about system upgrades. I just knew my rent was due in 4 days. "Mommy, look." Lily squeezed my hand. She pointed at the window of Casa Valente. It glowed. Warm light spilled onto the dark cobblestones. Inside, it looked like a different world. White tablecloths, heavy silver, people laughing with heads thrown back, wearing clothes that cost more than my monthly salary. "It is beautiful, baby," I said, trying to force warmth into my voice. Tonight was supposed to be normal, a celebration. Lily had aced her diagnostics, all of them. My 8-year-old daughter, the little genius. I was running on fumes from a double shift and 2 hours of sleep, but she deserved this. I clutched the gift card in my pocket. My sister's boss had given it to her, and she passed it to me. "Go," she said. "Pretend you are rich." Casa Valente, famous for its truffle gnocchi. It was the kind of place you read about, not the kind of place you actually went to. The hostess looked at us, her eyes flicking from my worn coat to Lily's slightly mismatched gloves. I held up the gift card. Her smile became professional. She led us to a small table near the back, close to the bar. The restaurant was packed, tourists, Wall Street types celebrating bonuses. And then there were the others, the faces that did not belong with the finance crowd. In the best booth, against the far wall, sat Daniel Moretti. I did not know his name then. I just saw the man. He was in his late 30s, wearing a suit so perfectly tailored it looked like armor. He was not loud. He was the opposite of loud. He was a pool of silence in the middle of the noise. He sat with 2 other men, but he barely spoke. He just listened. His focus was absolute. He picked up his water glass, examined it for a smudge, and set it down. A man obsessed with control. He ran the place, I guessed. Or maybe he ran the whole block. He had that kind of stillness, the kind that meant he did not have to raise his voice, ever. Lily was vibrating with excitement, coloring on the paper placemat. I started to relax, just a fraction. The smell of garlic and rosemary was heavy in the air. This was good. This was one normal night. "Can I really get the gnocchi?" "Mommy, you get whatever you want, sweetie. You earned it." She beamed. That smile was the fuel that kept me going. Then her crayon stopped. She tilted her head, her blonde hair falling over her shoulder. Her focus shifted, not to me, but to the bar, just behind us. 2 men stood there, nursing dark liquors. They were big, wearing expensive, slightly shiny suits. They spoke low, a harsh, guttural sound. Russian, maybe, or something close to it. This was Lily's thing, her gift, her quirk. I do not know what you call it. She was 8 years old, and she was a linguistic sponge. She did not study languages. She just absorbed them. We would watch a Korean drama, and the next day she would be using the right honorifics for the characters. She heard it. She understood it. Usually, she just listened, her eyes bright with curiosity. This time, the color drained from her face. Her little body went rigid. I saw her hand, the one holding the green crayon, begin to tremble. "Lily, baby, what is wrong?" She did not answer. She was listening intently. The men at the bar clinked their glasses. One of them laughed, a low, ugly sound. I did not hear the words. Of course, I just heard the murmur. But Lily heard the words. She heard one of them, in a mix of Russian and Georgian, mention a heart stopping before the main course. Lily's eyes widened in terror. She looked from the men at the bar to the quiet man in the booth, the man in the perfect suit, Daniel Moretti. A waiter was approaching his table, holding a steaming, beautiful bowl, the famous truffle gnocchi. "Lily," I whispered, alarmed now. She looked at me, her blue eyes huge. "Mommy, they said his heart will stop." Before I could process it, before I could tell her to sit down, that she must have misheard, she was out of her chair. Lily, no, she ran. She was fast. She dodged a waiter carrying a heavy tray and did not stop until she reached the booth. The two men with Moretti started to rise, but the quiet man just lifted one hand. Barely a movement. They froze. His eyes, dark and unreadable, settled on my daughter. He did not look annoyed. He did not look surprised. He just looked observant. Lily grabbed his hand, his left hand, resting on the white tablecloth. "Do not eat the gnocchi," she whispered, her voice shaking but fierce. The waiter was inches away, holding the bowl. Moretti looked at the bowl, then back at my child. "Why not?" His voice was low, calm. Not a voice you use for a child, a voice you use for a deposition. "They put something in it." Lily rushed out, tears welling. "The men at the bar, they spoke Russian. They said it makes your heart stop." I was frozen. I finally ran up, grabbing her small shoulder. "I am so sorry. She has an imagination. I am so sorry, sir." He ignored me. His gaze was locked on Lily. He studied her face, searching for something. I do not know what he found, but it was enough. He looked up at the waiter. "Take it back, bring a fresh one, and tell the chef I want to see him. Now." He did not raise his voice, but the order cracked through the restaurant's buzz. The waiter, pale, nodded and vanished with the bowl. Moretti's two men were on their feet. One moved toward the bar. The other moved toward the kitchen doors. "Sir," I tried again, pulling Lily behind me. "We should just go. We are so sorry." "Sit down, Dantum," he said. It was not a request. He pointed to the bench in his booth. I sat. I pulled Lily onto my lap. She buried her face in my scrubs, the ones that still smelled faintly of antiseptic. The chef, a tall man in whites, came storming out, looking insulted. "Daniel, what is this?" Moretti was already holding the replacement bowl, which had arrived with impossible speed. He gestured to the chef. "This is the dish that was sent to my table, the first one." "It is the gnocchi," the chef said, confused. "Test it," Moretti ordered. The chef looked outraged. "Test it, it is my grandmother's recipe." "Test it now, or I will have your supplier test it, and your line cook." The chef's anger deflated, replaced by fear. He looked at the dish. He signaled to a passing waiter. "Get me a tasting spoon." No, Moretti said. "Him." He pointed to a young busboy, barely 20, clearing a nearby table. "You, come here." The boy came over, terrified. "What is your name?" "Paolo, sir." "Paolo, I want you to dip the end of this chopstick." Moretti produced one from a side table setting. "Into the sauce, just the very tip, and touch it to your tongue." "Sir." Moretti's eyes were flat. A simple test. The chef protested. "You cannot." Moretti's gaze silenced him. The boy, Paolo, was shaking. He dipped the wooden tip into the creamy truffle sauce. He hesitated, looking at Moretti. "Go on." Paolo lightly touched the tip of the chopstick to his tongue. For a second, nothing. He looked relieved. Then his eyes rolled back. His body stiffened. He did not collapse, not fully. He just started to seize, a small, tight convulsion, his breath catching in his throat. A woman at the next table screamed. Chaos erupted. I reacted without thinking. I pushed Lily into the booth and was at the busboy's side. "He is seizing someone, call 911. Get the automated external defibrillator." I turned him on his side, clearing his airway as my training took over. He was breathing, but barely, a pre-symptom, a mild dose. Whatever was in that sauce, a full bite would have been fatal. Through the screaming, I heard Moretti's voice, clear and cold. "Lock the kitchen doors, nobody in or out. Find the bar manager. Check the security feed. Where are the two men at the bar?" One of his men shouted back, "Gone, boss, slipped out the back exit." The restaurant was in pandemonium. People were running for the doors. Paolo was stabilizing, the seizure passing into a postictal state. I stayed with him, monitoring his pulse. Daniel Moretti walked over to me. He stood over me, a shadow blocking the chaotic lights. He was looking at Lily, who was peering over the booth, her face white as the tablecloth. He waited until I looked up. "Why?" he asked, his voice deadly quiet. "Does your daughter know Russian?" My blood ran cold. This was not a question from a concerned restaurant owner. This was an interrogation. "She does not know it," I said, my voice trembling. I stood up, moving between him and my daughter. She hears things. She understands. She is just a child. His eyes searched mine. He knew I was telling the truth, and he knew what that meant. "You cannot stay here," he said. He looked at the paramedics rushing in, at the two police officers following them. "You need to come with me. Right now, through the kitchen." I balked. "I am not going anywhere with you. I am talking to the police." "The police cannot protect you," he said simply. "Those men were Bratva. They were not trying to poison me. They were trying to execute me. And your daughter just identified herself." He leaned in, his voice dropping so low only I could hear it. "They saw her run to my table. They saw me send the dish back. They are gone, and they know why." He did not have to say the rest. "You are witnesses," he stated. I looked at Lily. She was shaking so hard her teeth were chattering. She was not a witness. She was a target. This was supposed to be a normal night, a celebration. I wanted to give my daughter one evening free of the world's weight. Instead, I had dropped her into the middle of a war I did not even know existed. A war between men like Daniel Moretti and the men who spoke Russian at the bar. The gift card felt like toxic plastic in my pocket. The truth of our situation, the cost of this kindness, was suddenly terribly clear. "Where?" I whispered. "My car is out back. My man will handle the police." He nodded toward the kitchen, which his men now controlled. "We go now, as in this second." I grabbed Lily's hand. She did not grab her coat. I did not grab mine. We just ran. The car was a black sedan, silent inside as a tomb. We had run through the kitchen, past shouting chefs and steaming pots, and out into a cold alley. A man, built like a refrigerator, had opened the back door. Daniel Moretti got in the front. He never looked back. Lily was silent on my lap, her small body rigid. I held her, my arms shaking, my mind replaying the sight of the busboy, Paolo convulsing on the marble floor. We drove for maybe 15 minutes, weaving through Manhattan traffic with an efficiency that suggested the driver did not care about yellow lights. We pulled into a private garage beneath a glass tower in Tribeca. An elevator opened directly into the apartment, or rather the penthouse. The door slid open onto a space larger than my entire apartment floor. It was cold, not the temperature, but the feeling. All glass, steel, and shades of gray. The windows were vast, 2 stories high, looking down on the city lights, but they did not feel like windows. They felt like observation panels. The glass is bulletproof, Moretti said, answering the question I had not asked. He walked to the center of the room, shrugging off his perfect suit jacket. The elevator requires biometric authorization. Nobody comes in unless I allow it. Lily, sensing the tension, finally let go of my scrubs. She crept toward the corner of the vast room, where a gleaming black grand piano sat. It looked ancient and antique, clashing with the modern sterility of the rest of the furniture. She can play, if she likes, he said, his back to us. He was at the window, looking down. I was grateful, and I was terrified. He had saved us. He had also trapped us. Who are you? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He turned. His dark eyes assessed me. I am the man you saved tonight, which means I am the man responsible for you now. That is not an answer. It is the only one that matters, he said. He moved to a sleek, dark bar and poured water into a crystal glass. He did not offer us any. The man who organized the attempt is named Sergei Volkov. He is Bratva, Russian. He wants my logistics operations at the port, my restaurants, my import business. They are just the legitimate face. The real prize is the port. He is trying to destroy my reputation, poison my supply chain, and take my contracts. My legs felt weak. I sat on a low, gray sofa that felt like it was made of expensive concrete. We cannot be here. I have to take her home. You do not have a home anymore, he said, not unkindly, just stating a fact. Not one that is safe, not after tonight. Just then, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I jumped. I had forgotten it was there. I pulled it out. The screen read, Beth Israel, Night Supervisor. My stomach twisted. I had to answer. I pressed the green button. This is Nurse Cole. Rachel, where are you? It was Brenda, my manager. Her voice was sharp. You were scheduled for an 11 o'clock check-in. It is almost midnight. You missed a shift handover. Brenda, I am so sorry there was an incident at a restaurant. My daughter, I do not care about the restaurant. She snapped. I care about the pediatric intensive care unit. I am short-staffed. If you are not here in 30 minutes, I am marking it as a no-show. 3 of those. And you know the policy. My throat closed. Brenda, I cannot. It is not safe. Not safe. We are a hospital. Make a choice. Rachel, your job, or whatever this is. She hung up. I stared at the phone, my job, my rent, my paycheck that was already 4 days late. Everything that held our fragile life together was evaporating. I looked at Moretti. He had heard every word. She is right, I whispered, the fight draining out of me. What is this? What am I doing in a stranger's penthouse? I am a nurse. You are a mother, he corrected, his voice quiet. And your daughter is a target. He will not solve your job situation. but he could not protect you from Volkov either. He watched me for a long moment, then nodded once, as if making a decision. He walked to a small, discreet office nook and picked up a tablet. He tapped it a few times. He turned back to me. My lawyer will be here in the morning. He will arrange a leave of absence for you from the hospital. Indefinite. Paid. I recoiled. Paid by who? By you? I am not taking your money. You will be compensated for your time, I know, he said, his voice flat, dismissing my protest. You will be retained as a temporary security consultant. Your specific expertise is required. Expertise, I am a nurse. You are the mother of the only person who can understand Sergei Volkov's organization without a wiretap. The cold, transactional nature of it hit me. He was not protecting us out of kindness. He was securing an asset. No, I said, standing up. She is 8 years old. I will not let you use her. Would you rather Volkov use her? He countered. Because he will not ask politely. Before I could answer, he held up the tablet. I need to know what she is capable of. I need to know if she is reliable. He pressed a button. A recording played. It was garbled, full of static. 2 men speaking, their voices harsh. It sounded like the men at the bar. Russian, maybe Ukrainian. Lily, who had been tracing the keys of the piano, froze. She turned around. She listened, her head tilted just as it had been in the restaurant. Moretti watched her. The recording was short, maybe 30 seconds. When it finished, Lily looked at me, then at him. What did they say? Moretti asked. Lily looked at me, seeking permission. I gave a small, shaky nod. The first man, he said the shipment is secure. Lily said, her voice small. He said the Godfather is checking it. He called him Kite. Moretti's expression sharpened. He leaned forward. Kite. Are you sure? Lily nodded. Kite. And he said they will handle the pickup at Warehouse Pier 46 on Thursday. Moretti was completely still. He looked at me. She is not just repeating sounds. She is interpreting idiom. It's handle. I told you, I said, my voice hollow. She just understands. He stood up and walked to the window. For a full minute, he said nothing. The city lights reflected in the dark, bulletproof glass. Pier 46, he said, mostly to himself. That is my primary cold storage facility. He turned back to us. His expression had changed. The calculation was still there, but something else was respect, maybe even concern. You need your things, he said. Clothes, medicine, whatever you need for her. Yes, our apartment in Queens. I will send 2 of my men with you. You will be in and out in 10 minutes. Get what is essential. You are not going back there. He made a call. 20 minutes later, I was back in the silent sedan, this time with 2 men who looked like they were carved from granite. Lily stayed at the penthouse, watched by a severe-looking woman in a black suit who had appeared from nowhere. Moretti insisted. Separation of assets. You are visible. She is not. The drive to Queens was agonizing. The men, Sal and Frank, did not speak. We pulled up to my building. It was a 3-story walk-up. We go first, Sal said. He and Frank got out, scanned the street, and went inside. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Sal. Clear. Come up. You have 10 minutes. I ran up the 2 flights of stairs. The door to my apartment was open. Splintered, hanging off one hinge. My heart stopped. I pushed past Sal. The world tilted. They had not just searched the place. They had destroyed it. My sofa was slashed open, stuffing pulled out. The television was smashed. Lily's toys were broken and scattered. Every cupboard, every drawer was emptied onto the floor. But they had left a message. On the wall above Lily's little bed, spray-painted in stark black letters, was one word: snitch. I made a sound, a small, choked gasp. I fell to my knees in the pile of her broken storybooks. They knew who we were. They knew where we lived. Moretti was right. We had no home. "Ma'am," Sal said, his voice firm. "We have to go, now. Grab her medication." I numbly went to the bathroom. The medicine cabinet was shattered. I found Lily's inhaler and her allergy pills, shoved them in my pocket, grabbed her toothbrush, and found my purse under a pile of broken dishes. We were back in the car in less than the allotted 10 minutes. I did not say a word the entire way back to Tribeca. The violation, the raw terror was suffocating. When I walked back into the penthouse, I must have looked like a ghost. Lily ran to me, and I grabbed her, holding her so tightly she grunted. Moretti was standing by the kitchen island. He saw my face. He did not need to ask. "They were there," I said, my voice shaking with rage and fear. "They destroyed everything. They left a message on her wall." His face hardened. "What message?" "Snitch." The word hung in the sterile air. This was it. The moment I lost my old life completely, I looked at him, the man who had brought this storm into our lives, and the only man who could shield us from it. "What are you doing?" I demanded, my voice rising. "Are you protecting us, or are you just holding us here? Are we prisoners?" "I am protecting you," he said, his voice dangerously low, "because I do not let children pay for adult wars, ever." His own phone buzzed. He looked at it. It was a text. He read it, his expression grim. "My security team found the leak at the restaurant," he said. "A line cook, young. He had a new crypto wallet with $10,000 in it. He admitted it. He gave 2 men access to the kitchen's walk-in freezer 2 hours before dinner service." "Who?" "He does not know. He just said Volkov has eyes everywhere, even in the port." He tapped his tablet again. "This company, Shorebase, they handle third-party logistics. An internal memo from them mentions random container number inspection for quality control. It is a lie. It is how they are seeding the poison." He suspected they were using Internet of Things devices, small sensors, to track and poison specific items deep within the supply chain. It was sophisticated. It was terrifying. "He has to be stopped," I whispered, looking at Lily, who had fallen asleep in my arms, exhausted by the trauma. Moretti watched me, his gaze softening almost imperceptibly. "She is hungry," he said. I looked at him, confused. "Lily, she did not eat. I imagine you did not either." He walked, not to the phone to order food, but into the kitchen. It was a vast, professional-grade space of stainless steel. He opened the massive refrigerator, pulled out eggs, cheese, a jar of sauce, and pasta. He found a pan. He started to cook. I sat at the island, holding my sleeping daughter, watching this man, this mafia boss, crack eggs and grate parmesan. He did not speak for a long time. The only sounds were the clinking of the pan and the hiss of the gas stove. He was making baked ziti, a simple, comforting dish. "My grandmother," he said, not looking at me, his focus on the food. She was from Naples. She used to make this on Sundays. She said it was the only way to make sure the family sat down together, even if they were fighting. He carefully slid the pan into the oven. He washed his hands, his movements precise, controlled. I looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time, the perfect suit was gone. He was in his shirt sleeves. He was not just the cold, calculating boss who had analyzed my daughter's linguistic skills. He was not just the killer the men at the bar were trying to be. He was a man protecting his territory. He was a man who understood responsibility. And he was feeding my child. It was the strangest, most terrifying, and most comforting moment of my life. The ziti was gone. Lily had eaten 2 plates, her eyes heavy with sleep. Before I carried her to the guest room, it was another sterile gray room, but it had a bed. She was asleep before I laid her down. When I came back out, Daniel Moretti was standing with another man. This man was different. He was sharp, dressed in a suit that was expensive but lacked Moretti's perfect stillness. He looked agitated. This was Marco Venti, his second in command. "You cannot be serious, Daniel," Marco was saying, his voice low but tense. "You are basing an operation on what a kid said she heard." "She was right about the gnocchi," Daniel said calmly. He was looking at a large screen on the wall, which now showed a blueprint of a shipping pier. "That was luck. This is Pier 46. That is our main artery. You go in heavy. You spook Volkov and you invite the Port Authority, maybe the feds, to crawl up our entire operation." She was not lucky. Marco, she was accurate. Kite, Pier 46, Thursday. "And the cops?" Marco asked, gesturing dismissively. "You're just going to let them in." "I am not letting them do anything," Daniel said. "But I am not starting a war on my own pier. We observe. We track the container." Marco looked at me, his eyes cold. He clearly saw me as the source of this problem. "This is a mistake, involving civilians. It is messy. Our business is not messy." "Poisoning my customers is messy," Daniel retorted. "This discussion is over. Get the team ready. I want full surveillance on that pier starting now." Marco Venti looked like he wanted to argue, but he just gave a short, angry nod and left, his phone already to his ear. "He does not trust me," I said, stating the obvious. "He does not trust change," Daniel said, his eyes still on the map. "He is used to the old ways. This is new." The next 2 days were agonizing. I was a prisoner in a glass tower. Daniel's lawyer, a man with a shark's smile, had called the hospital and arranged my medical leave. He also presented me with a contract, a security consultation agreement. The salary listed made my hands shake. It was more than I made in 6 months. "I cannot sign this," I said. "It is a formality," the lawyer said. "It makes you an employee. It gives us a legal framework to protect you." I signed it. I needed to keep my daughter safe, and I needed to maintain some illusion of control. Thursday came. The sky opened up, a cold, miserable rain lashing against the bulletproof windows. Daniel was dressed in dark, practical clothing, no suit. "You are going?" I asked, my heart hammering. "I am observing. Marco will be on the ground." He paused. "I need Lily." "No, absolutely not. She is not leaving this building." "She does not have to." He pointed to a console set up on his massive dining table. "My team will have open microphones. The Russians will be using scrambled frequencies, but the close-range hardware is analog. If they speak, she needs to listen. From here, it is the only way we know what they are moving before they move it. I looked at Lily, who was at the piano, softly picking out a tune. She was oblivious. "Rachel," he said, his voice softer, "I will have 3 men on this door. She will be safer here than anywhere else. But I need her ears. Help me stop this, and I can end it. If I fail, we will be looking over our shoulders forever." I nodded, my stomach churning. The night dragged on. 1 o'clock in the morning, then 1:30. Lily was dozing on the sofa. I was pacing, my nerves frayed to the breaking point. Daniel's phone, which was connected to the speaker on the table, crackled. A man's voice, heavy static, Russian. Lily's head snapped up. "He says the weather is bad," she whispered, her eyes wide. "He is annoyed. He is asking where Kite is." Another voice answered, this one calmer. "Kite is on the roof. He is watching. He says the appointment is at 1:40. He is checking the goods." Daniel, who was listening from his car via his own earpiece, spoke through my phone's secure line. His voice was a tight whisper. "Ask her, what goods?" I relayed the question. Lily listened again. The men were quiet. Then, another burst. He said, Kite is checking the goods." Lily repeated. "He said the container is clean. He's waiting for the signal." Suddenly, the feed changed. New voices. American. "New York Police Department. Hands in the air, do not move." My blood ran cold. "What is happening?" I yelled into the phone. "Cops." Daniel's voice was grim. "They are early, or they were tipped off." The audio feed erupted into shouting. I heard a thud, a grunt, then silence. Daniel's line cut out. I was alone with Lily, staring at a dead speaker, my mind imagining the worst: gunfire, arrests. The elevator chimed. I grabbed Lily, shoving her behind the piano, my heart trying to escape my chest. I picked up a heavy crystal statue, the only thing nearby I could use as a weapon. The doors opened. Daniel Moretti stepped out. He was wet from the rain, but unharmed. Behind him stood a woman. She was in her 40s, wearing a practical trench coat, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun. She looked tired, angry, and she had a detective's badge clipped to her belt. "This is Detective Ava Bloom," Daniel said, his voice tight. "She runs the organized crime unit. She just compromised my entire operation." "Your operation was trespassing on a federal waterway." "Moretti." The detective snapped. She looked at me, then at Lily, who was peeking out. Her expression softened for a fraction of a second, then hardened again. "So this is the civilian asset," Detective Bloom said. "A child. You are using a child." "I'm protecting a child," Daniel corrected. "A child your department would have put in protective custody and lost within a day. My team was tracking a shipment of biological toxins. Your team just scattered the targets. My team needs clean evidence. Moretti, not your vigilante games. I cannot arrest Sergei Volkov on a rumor from a kid. I need chain of custody. I need a witness who will testify. You are interfering with a federal investigation. And I am trying to stop people from dying." Daniel shot back. "While you are filling out paperwork, Volkov is poisoning my city." "We caught one of them," she said, grudgingly. "A man named Nikolai Sokolov. Calls himself Kite. He was on the roof with a modified drone, exactly where your anonymous tip said he would be. But he is not talking. And the container he was watching it was empty." "It was a decoy," Daniel said, running a hand through his wet hair. Kite was the target. Volkov was testing us, or he was testing him. Detective Bloom looked at me. "Ma'am, my name is Detective Ava Bloom. You and your daughter are in incredible danger. I am offering you official protection." "Oh, and go where?" I asked, my voice shaking. "A motel room with a bored cop outside. The men who did this found my apartment in an hour. They knew who I was. How long until they find your safe house?" She had no answer. She knew I was right. "Stay out of my way, Moretti," she finally said. "I get one more whiff of you obstructing justice. I am bringing you in, and I am taking the girl." She turned and left. The elevator doors closed, leaving a heavy silence. "She is wrong," I said. "She is doing her job," Daniel said, "but her rules will not keep you safe." The next day, it happened. Daniel's phone rang. It was one of his men. I could not hear the words, but I saw the color drain from Daniel's face. He looked at me, his expression unreadable. "Rachel," he said, his voice flat. "There has been an incident at Lily's school. I did not ask. I just ran. He did not try to stop me. He and two of his men came with me. The ride to Queens was a blur of terror. We did not even have to get out of the car. We saw it from the street. The large glass window of Lily's second-grade classroom was smashed, a single jagged hole. A patrol car was parked outside. "Stay here," Daniel ordered. He got out and spoke to the officer. He came back 5 minutes later. He was holding a plastic evidence bag. Inside was a brick. Wrapped around the brick was a piece of paper. He handed it to me. I unfolded it. The words were cut from magazines. "The girl who hears we hear her too." I did not scream. I did not cry. A cold, terrifying calm settled over me. They had threatened my child. They had gone to her school, her safe place, and they had threatened her. I looked at Daniel. "I will be the bait," I said. "What?" "They are watching you. They are watching me. They want her. So we use me. We set a trap. Whatever you need, whatever it takes, I want this man, Volkov, finished. I want him to pay for this." The fear was gone, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. I was a mother. I was a nurse. I had seen death. I would not let it come for my daughter. Daniel watched me, his expression a mix of alarm and respect. "We will set a trap," he agreed, "but not with you. We will set it for them. We are moving. Now." He moved us to a house in Yonkers, a safe house. It was a fortress. Concrete walls, few windows, surrounded by a high fence. It was ugly, and it was safe. Daniel's team began spreading a rumor, a fake story, that Lily was traumatized, that her mother was taking her to a prominent child psychologist in Midtown for an evaluation. They leaked a specific date and time. The night before the appointment, the tension in the house was unbearable. Daniel's men were everywhere. Lily was the only one who was calm. She was sitting at an old upright piano in the corner of the living room. She was playing, her small fingers moving with surprising confidence. Daniel stood in the doorway, listening. When she finished, he spoke. "That was beautiful. Lily, my grandmother, played. She said it was her 7th favorite thing to do." Lily looked up. "What was her first?" "Cooking," Daniel said, a rare, small smile touching his lips. "She had a rule. Menu item number 7, from her restaurant in Naples. Mani pulite fanno cibo pulito. Clean hands make clean food." He looked at me, his gaze holding mine. It meant You cannot bring your anger, your greed, your fight into the kitchen. You wash your hands, you wash your soul. Before you feed the family, you have to be clean. I understood. It was his code, the line he tried to hold. I walked over to him, close enough that his men tensed. I need to know something, Daniel. I said, my voice low. This trap tomorrow. There will be violence. Yes, if you have a choice between hurting them and stopping them, between your pride and our safety, what will you choose? He was silent for a long time. The only sound was the rain starting to tap against the windows. When I was 20, he said, his voice quiet. My father told me that pride is the only thing a man owns. He was wrong. It is the thing that owns him. I do not choose pride. Rachel, I choose people. I choose my people. And you and Lily, you are my people now. Before I could process that, an alarm chirped. Not a loud one, but a persistent digital beep. Daniel was moving instantly. What is that? One of his tech guys, a young man with a laptop, cursed. Boss, we're being pinged. A high-frequency sonar. Someone is mapping the house from a drone. They are not at Midtown. They are here. The trap was a trap. For us. Marco, Daniel yelled. Evacuate everyone out. Back vehicles. We have 12 minutes. Go, go. The house exploded into motion. Men grabbed bags, weapons. I grabbed Lily. Daniel pulled us toward a back staircase. We ran through a concrete tunnel toward an underground garage. We piled into the same silent sedan. Where is Sal? Daniel yelled. He is right behind us. He is getting the... A sound like thunder shook the entire house. An explosion. The concrete dust rained down on us. Drive, Daniel ordered. The car shot out of the garage, tires screaming on the wet asphalt, just as a black armored truck smashed through the front gate of the compound. Sal, Marco yelled from the passenger's seat. I looked back. I saw a man, Sal, the one who had driven me to my apartment, on the ground. He was not moving. He was bleeding, a lot, from his leg. Stop the car, I screamed. We do not stop, Daniel said, his face a mask of stone. Stop the car or I will jump out, I yelled. He is bleeding out. He will be dead in 3 minutes. Daniel looked at me, at the pure, non-negotiable fury in my eyes. He slammed his hand on the dashboard. Stop. The car skidded to a stop. I was out before it fully stopped, running back toward the firefight that had just erupted. Rachel. No. I ignored him. I ran to Sal. He was conscious, his eyes wide with shock. His femoral artery was hit, a massive, pumping wound. I ripped off my belt. I pressed my knee into his groin, right on the pressure point. Hold this, I yelled at the other guard who had run up. I cinched the belt above the wound, creating a desperate tourniquet. He needs a pressure dressing. Get me the kit from the car, I yelled. I kept my hand on the wound, my entire body shielding him as bullets pinged off the concrete wall above us. Daniel was suddenly there, next to me, firing a handgun over my head at the men pouring out of the truck. He was protecting me, while I protected his man. The guard ran back, threw the trauma kit. I ripped it open, found the combat gauze, the pressure bandage. My hands were shaking, but my mind was ice cold. This, I knew, this was my job. Secure the airway. Stop the bleeding. Treat for shock. I packed the wound, wrapped the pressure dressing. My movements fast, efficient. practiced from 12 years in the emergency room. He is stable, I said, breathing hard. For now, we have to move him. Daniel and the other man grabbed Sal, dragging him toward the car. Daniel never looked at me. He just reloaded his weapon, his face grim. He had just seen, at point-blank range, exactly what he meant when he said he chose people. He had seen the real, messy, bloody value of a single human life. Sal was alive. Barely. We got him to a private clinic in the city, one that did not ask questions and had a trauma surgeon on call. I had kept pressure on the wound for the entire ride. My hands were covered in his blood. Daniel had watched me, his face unreadable in the flashing city lights, as I gave the handover to the surgical team, using language he did not understand but recognizing the authority. He will live. I told Daniel in the sterile waiting room, "You need better field dressings." "I will add it to the budget," he said, his voice flat. The attack on the Yonkers safe house changed everything. It proved there was a leak, a deep one. Marco Venti was pale, his agitation replaced by a simmering fear. They knew the layout, Marco said to Daniel. They knew the escape route. That was not a probe. That was an execution. They were fed our location. Daniel agreed, which means our midtown bait is now the only trap we have left. We were in a new location, a corporate apartment in a glass skyscraper that Daniel's company apparently owned. It was smaller than the penthouse, but the security was military grade. The windows did not open. I was in a small, windowless office in the center of the apartment, a soundproof room. Lily was with me, drawing in a sketchbook I had found in a desk. She was quiet, too quiet. The explosion had terrified her. "I do not want her to do this," I said to Daniel. He stood in the doorway. "The decoy team is moving," he said, ignoring my protest. 2 cars, one with my people, dressed to look like you and Lily. They are approaching the psychologist's building now. Volkov's people will be watching. They will be communicating. I need to know what they say. I need to know who they are." He looked at Lily. "Lily, like before, can you listen for me?" She looked at me. I hated this. I hated asking her to carry this burden. But I remembered the black spray paint on her bedroom wall. Snitch. "Just listen, baby," I whispered, stroking her hair. "Just tell us what they say." The speakers on the table crackled. Daniel's tech team was feeding us the audio. It was a mix of Russian and Ukrainian, the same voices from the pier. Lily closed her eyes, her brow furrowed. "They see the car," she whispered. "They are confirming. A woman and a child. They said, the package is moving." Daniel nodded, listening to his own earpiece. "My team confirms they are being tailed by a gray van. They are waiting." Lily said, "They are angry. They said, Kite should be here." The name Kite, the man from the pier, Nikolai Sokolov. "But Kite is in jail," I whispered. "Unless he is not," Daniel said, his eyes dark. A new voice cut through the static. It was clearer, more authoritative. Russian. Lily gasped. "What?" Daniel demanded. "It is him," she whispered. "The man from the bar, the main one, Sergei Volkov. He is angry," Lily said, translating in real time. "He said the Midtown location is a mess, too many police. He said Kite is a fool. He is yelling." She went silent, listening hard. He said, "Kite failed with the gnocchi. He failed at the safe house. Tonight, it is not the gnocchi. Tell the team. It is the olive oil." My blood ran cold. Daniel went rigid. He looked at me, his face pale with a new, dawning horror. "The olive oil," he repeated. "The new shipment. It is not for me. It is for the city." He knew exactly what it meant. A massive shipment of premium olive oil, scheduled for distribution that very morning to 24 high-end restaurants in his network. Not a single target. A mass poisoning. "Get Ava Bloom on the line." He snapped into his phone. "Now." A moment later, his voice was tight. "Detective, you need to stop a shipment, now. Pier 46, again, container 774B. I could not hear her, but his face told me she was arguing. "I do not have time for your warrant," he yelled. "He's moving now. It is olive oil. It is poisoned. It is going out to the entire city." He paused, listening. "You need probable cause, fine. You want my network? You can have it. I am sending you my company's internal transport logs. All of them. Right now. It shows the container. It shows the routing. It is your chain of custody. Now, you get that warrant, and you meet me there in 20 minutes. He hung up. He looked at me. "What did you just do?" I asked. "I just gave the New York Police Department the blueprint to my legitimate businesses," he said, grabbing a dark jacket. "I just made myself completely vulnerable to the law to stop him. You are going—" "He will be there. Volkov. He will not trust this to anyone else. This is his end game." He turned to Marco. "Stay here. Lock this room down. Nobody in or out until I get back. You protect them. Marco, you understand me?" Marco Venti nodded, his face grim. "I understand, Daniel." Daniel left. I was alone with Lily and the hum of the speakers. The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. The audio feed was silent. Then, just after 1:30 in the morning, the speakers exploded with sound, shouting, American voices, "Police down on the ground." And then, Russian, "Volkov, jam them, now move it, fire." The feed dissolved into static. A high-pitched squeal. The jammer. I stared at the speaker, my heart pounding, imaging the scene, the rain, the dark pier, the yelling. It was almost dawn when the elevator chimed. Daniel Moretti returned. He was not wet, but he was bruised. There was a cut over his eye. He was alone. "It is done," he said. He walked to the bar and poured a glass of water, his hand shaking slightly. "What happened?" I asked. "Ava Bloom was there. Her team. My team. We cornered them. Volkov had jammers. He thought he could blind the cameras and get the truck out. He was wrong. And the olive oil. Ava's team breached the container. Crates of it. Her forensics team did a field test. It was laced with a cardiotoxin, a derivative of oleandrin, fast-acting, untraceable in a complex food dish. He would have poisoned thousands. "Volkov," I said. "Did you get him?" Daniel shook his head. "He escaped. He sacrificed his team to get away, but we got him." "Who?" "Nikolai Sokolov, Kite." "But Kite was in jail." "He was released," Daniel said, his voice bitter. "This morning. Insufficient evidence." Bloom was furious. He walked right out of the precinct and went straight to the pier. He thought he was smart. He tried to double back during the chaos. Daniel flexed his bruised knuckles. "I found him. We had a short conversation." You killed him?" "No," Daniel said. "I captured him. Ava has him. He is talking. He is terrified of Volkov. He is even more terrified of me." "What did he say?" Daniel looked at me. his dark eyes holding a new, terrible weight. He said we were punching at the wrong enemy. He said Volkov is just a street soldier. Kite said, you are just the bridge. Moretti, the real brain, is on Wall Street. I did not understand. Wall Street, a banker. A tech investor, Daniel said. A man named Galen Price. He runs a massive green energy fund. He is one of the city's biggest philanthropists. He is a legitimate billionaire, and according to Kite, he is the one laundering all the Bratva money. He has been using Volkov to disrupt my port logistics, so his own food supply chain, financed by his green fund, can take over. The poisoning was not just murder. It was corporate sabotage. The scope of it was staggering. It was not a mafia war, it was a hostile takeover. The next morning, it was all over the news. NYPD thwarts mass poisoning at city docks. The reports praised an anonymous tip and the quick work of Detective Bloom's unit. They did not mention Lily. Ava had kept her word. But there was one mistake. One photo, taken by a dock worker with a phone. It showed Daniel Moretti, bruised and intense, standing next to a police car. His face was unmistakable. He was exposed. It does not matter, he said, dismissing the television. Just then, his tech specialist, the young man who had monitored the drone, ran into the room. He looked sick. Boss, he said, his voice shaking. We found it, the leak, from Yonkers. Daniel turned, his body going still. Who? I analyzed the logs from the safe house, the drone ping. It was not an outside hack. It was an authorized signal. It was sent from inside our network, from a user's secure access device. Whose device? Daniel's voice was deadly. The tech looked at the man standing by the door. It was Marco's boss. The silence in the room was absolute. I looked at Marco Venti. The color had drained from his face. He looked gray. Daniel did not speak. He simply turned and looked at the man who had been his right hand. Daniel, Marco whispered, holding up his hands. Daniel, you have to listen to me. Daniel Moretti walked to a drawer. He opened it. He took out a handgun. He did not check if it was loaded. He knew it was. You brought them to my house, Daniel said. His voice was not loud. It was terrifyingly calm. You brought them to her. He nodded toward Lily, who was watching, her eyes wide with fear. You put a target on a child for money. Not for money, Marco shouted, tears streaming down his face. Daniel, no. Daniel raised the gun. This was it, the old way, the giustizia di famiglia, family justice. No! I screamed. I ran and stood between them, my hands on Daniel's chest. Rachel, move, he ordered. No, I said, my voice shaking but firm. Look at me, Daniel. Look at me. You said you choose people. You said you wash your hands. You have to be clean. This is not clean. This is what they do. This is what Volkov does. He betrayed me, Daniel said, his voice raw. He is terrified. I countered. You do not execute a terrified man. You ask him why. You promised me. You do not choose pride. You choose people. Prove it. Put the gun down. I stared into his eyes, my heart pounding. I was a nurse, a mother, standing in front of a mafia boss, telling him not to kill. He stared at me for a long, agonizing moment. The muscle in his jaw jumped. Slowly, his arm lowered. He did not put the gun down, but he pointed it at the floor. Why? He growled at Marco. Marco Venti collapsed, sobbing. He has my mother, he choked out. Volkov, he has my mother and my little brother in Jersey. He sent me a video. Daniel, he said he would kill them, both of them, if I did not give him the safe house location. What was I supposed to do? He had my family. His words hung in the air. A terrible, impossible choice. He had betrayed his boss to save his blood. Daniel was silent. He looked at the broken man on the floor. He looked at the gun in his hand. He looked at me. He took a deep breath. He made his choice. He put the gun on the table. He took out his phone. He did not call his executioner. He called the police. "Detective Bloom," he said, his voice heavy. "I have another witness for you. His name is Marco Venti. He is my second in command, and he is the one who gave Volkov the safe house location. He is ready to testify. In exchange, you are going to find his mother and his brother. You are going to save them, and you are going to put Marco in the witness protection program." He listened. "Yes, he is here. I am giving him to you. It is your move, detective." He hung up. He looked at me, his face exhausted. He had just gambled everything. He had spared a traitor and handed his right-hand man to the cops, all in one move. He had chosen the new way. Galen Price was not a man who ran. He was on television the next morning. His hair was perfect. His smile was reassuring. He was announcing a new multi-million-dollar safe and green food initiative for the city. "We cannot allow," he said, his face a mask of civic concern, "our food supply to be jeopardized by criminals." "Mr. Price," a reporter asked, "the New York Police Department arrested Nikolai Sokolov at the pier last night. He was also a suspect in the Casa Valente poisoning, a restaurant owned by Daniel Moretti. And Mr. Moretti was also at the pier. Are these two men at war?" Galen Price laughed. "I am a philanthropist. I build green logistics. Mr. Moretti is, well, he runs nightclubs and restaurants. I think you are confusing a business dispute with a crime. In fact, my lawyers are filing a lawsuit against Moretti Enterprises this morning for commercial defamation and attempting to interfere with my legitimate shipping contracts." He had flipped the entire narrative. He was the victim. Daniel was the aggressor. We watched it from the corporate apartment. Daniel, me, and Detective Ava Bloom. "He is insulating himself," Ava said, disgusted. She tossed a file on the table. "Kite is singing. He has given us Volkov's entire network, and Marco Venti's testimony about his mother's kidnapping corroborates the coercion. But we cannot touch Price. He is a ghost. He is protected by 50 lawyers and a checkbook that owns half the city council. So we are stuck," I said. "We have nothing that ties Price to the pier." Ava said, "He was not there. His name is not on any manifest. He is too clean." "Then we have to get him dirty," Daniel said. His tech team had been working non-stop. The young man from the safe house, the one who had found Marco's betrayal, came in. He was holding a laptop. "Boss," he said, "we recovered this from a server Kite used. It is a corrupted file, a partial recording of a Zoom call from 3 days ago. The audio is a mess." He played it. It was static, noise, but underneath there was a voice, speaking English, Galen Price, and another voice, answering in Russian. My blood ran cold. I looked at Lily. She was in the corner, building a house of playing cards. "Lily," I said, my voice gentle, "baby, I need your ears, just for a minute." She walked over, her face serious. She tilted her head, listening to the static. "Unacceptable risk. Price's voice said. The whole Zerno shipment. The Russian voice replied, garbled. What did he say? Daniel asked Lily. Lily listened again, her brow furrowed. The second man. He is agreeing. He said, Zerno. It means grain. He said the grain is secure. He confirmed the warehouse code. Cometa. Daniel and Ava looked at each other. Cometa, Daniel said. Comet, that is not a code. It is a silo. Warehouse Comet, in Red Hook. It is one of Price's green holding facilities. They are not stopping. They are just switching products. From olive oil to grain. Now I have him, Ava said, her eyes flashing. That is my probable cause. The alliance formed, strange and necessary. Ava Bloom got her warrants. Daniel provided the infrastructure. He spread a map of the Red Hook port on the table. He owns the silo, Daniel explained, but I own the water access. His ships have to pass my deep water channels. Here, here, and here. These are his blind spots. Ava absorbed the information, her police mind connecting the dots. I can put my teams here. I need to do my part, I said. They both looked at me. The bus boy, I said. Paolo, the one who was poisoned at Casa Valente. And there was a chef, too, the one I treated on site before the paramedics arrived. They are living witnesses. They are proof that Volkov was testing the toxin long before the pier. It took me a day. Ava gave me an escort. I found Paolo. He was back at home, terrified to leave his apartment. I did not go in as a cop. I went in as a nurse. I am Rachel Cole, I said, sitting in his small living room. I was there. I treated you. I do not know nothing. He stammered. I know, I said gently. I am not asking you to. I just want to check your vitals. I took his pulse. I listened to his heart. Your heart rate is still irregular. Bradycardia and the tremors in your hands. That was not food poisoning. Paolo, that was a sophisticated cardiotoxin. I can describe exactly what it did to your nervous system, and I can testify to it in court, but it would be stronger if you told them what you saw. He broke down. He told me he had seen the men from the bar, the Russians, in the kitchen earlier that day, talking to the line cook who had been arrested. They were holding a small silver vial. He had been warned to forget what he saw. He agreed to testify. I had my piece of the puzzle. Now, Daniel set the trap. He held a press conference. He stood in the lobby of his flagship restaurant, his face bruised, his expression grave. In light of the recent, terrible events at our city's port, he said, and the slanderous accusations made against my company, I am taking action. I am inviting Mr. Galen Price, a self-proclaimed leader in food safety, to join me for a public dialogue. I invite him to my central kitchen. Let us, together, show New York that our supply chains are secure. Let us be transparent. It was a brilliant move. Price, wrapped in his own arrogance, could not refuse. I am happy to educate Mr. Moretti on modern secure logistics. Price's office released in a statement. I accept. The day of the dialogue. The central kitchen was buzzing. It was a massive, stainless steel facility, the heart of Daniel's culinary empire. Ava Bloom's people were everywhere, disguised as sous chefs, waiters, even media. Every surface was clean. Every surface was bugged. Rachel, Daniel said, I need you to give him the pre-tour. Show him our transparency. Lily will stay with you. He will not suspect a mother and child. I understand, I said. Galen Price arrived, flanked by 2 lawyers and an aide, the same man with the earpiece. Price was smooth, charismatic, shaking hands, radiating confidence. "Mrs. Cole," he said, smiling at me. "I am so glad Daniel has such dedicated staff, and this must be your daughter." Lily hid behind my leg. "Mister, Moretti insists on total transparency," I said, my voice steady, though my heart was hammering. "This is our main intake, and this is our server room, where we track every shipment." As we walked past the humming server racks, Lily tripped. It was a move we had practiced. She fell, and her sketchbook scattered across the floor. "Oh, dear," Price said, bending to help her. "Let us get these for you." His aide, distracted, took a call. He turned his back slightly, muttering in low Russian into his earpiece. Lily, on the floor gathering her drawings, froze. Price handed her the last drawing. "There you go, little one." Lily stood up. She looked at me. She tugged my hand. Then, in a small, clear voice, she began to sing a nursery rhyme. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." But she changed the words. The man said, "Delete the drone logs before 5 minutes." She sang, her voice trembling. I felt the blood leave my face. A hot microphone, disguised as a button on my jacket, was feeding every word directly to Ava Bloom. Price did not understand the words, but he saw the look on my face. He saw the shift. His eyes narrowed. Just then, Daniel walked up. "Galen, thank you for coming." Price dropped the friendly facade. His smile vanished. "This is a waste of time. Moretti, your operation is finished. Mine is just beginning." Daniel smiled, a cold, sharp expression. "The operation at Pier 46, the one your man Kite botched." The color drained from Price's face. He had lost control. "Kite," he snarled, his voice low and furious. "Kite is an incompetent fool who could not handle one simple delivery. He compromised everything." The kitchen went silent. Ava Bloom stepped out from behind a row of steel refrigerators. 2 uniformed New York Police Department officers were with her. "Mr. Price," Ava said, her voice clear and cold. "That is the second time tonight you have confirmed your knowledge of Nikolai Sokolov's criminal activities. The first was your aide's order to destroy evidence. You are under arrest for conspiracy, attempted murder, and engaging in a pattern of racketeering activity." Price stared, his mouth open. His lawyers began to shout. The police officers moved in, cuffing him. It was clean. It was over. Or so I thought. We were leaving. Ava insisted on a secure escort. "Volkov is still out there," she said, "and he is a wounded animal." I was in the back of the sedan with Lily and Daniel. A driver and one of Daniel's men were in the front. We were on a quiet street in Queens, heading for a secure federal building. A dump truck, massive, pulled out from a side street, blocking the road. "Brake!" Daniel yelled. Our driver slammed the brakes. At the same instant, a black sport utility vehicle rammed us from behind. The impact threw us forward, a shriek of metal and shattering glass. The car spun. Before we had even stopped moving, the side door of the sport utility vehicle flew open. It was him, Sergei Volkov. His face was a mask of pure rage. He had a gun. He was not looking at Daniel. He was not looking at me. He was looking at Lily. "The girl!" he screamed, in heavily accented English. "The little witch!" He raised the gun. It happened in a flash, a moment suspended in time. Daniel moved. He did not hesitate. He did not think. He reacted. He threw his entire body over Lily, pushing her down, shielding her small frame with his own. I heard the sound, not a loud crack, but a heavy, wet thump as the bullet tore through the metal door and into his back. He grunted, a deep, agonizing sound, and slumped against me. Volkov raised the gun again, aiming for me. Sirens, an engine roaring. Ava Bloom's car, which had been 2 lengths behind, smashed directly into Volkov's sport utility vehicle, pinning him between the 2 frames. I did not watch it. I only had eyes for Daniel. He is bleeding. I screamed. I pulled him down across the seat. Lily, the trauma kit under the seat, the red bag now. I ripped his shirt open. A single gunshot wound, high on his back, near the shoulder, but it looked deep. "Mommy," Lily cried, her hand shaking as she passed me the bag. I know, baby, I know." I grabbed the combat gauze and pressed my entire weight onto the wound. "Lily, in the kit, the small machine with the red clip, the pulse oximeter, put it on his finger. Read me the numbers." She did it. Through her tears, she did it. "It says 90, 89, 88. His oxygen was dropping. He was bleeding into his chest. "At Daniel," I yelled, pressing down harder. "Stay with me. Do you hear me? You stay with me." He opened his eyes. He was not looking at me. He was looking at Lily. He lifted his hand, shaking, and touched her hair. I promise," he choked out, his voice a ragged whisper. I choose people every time." The car door was ripped open. It was Ava Bloom, her gun still drawn. Her face was grim. "Volkov is in custody. He is alive. Paramedics are right behind me." I was in the ambulance, still holding pressure. The news was already breaking on the radio. They were praising the New York Police Department, praising Detective Bloom. They mentioned an anonymous angel, a silent hero inside the organization who had helped break the case. Daniel was on the gurney, an oxygen mask on his face. He was pale, his eyes closed, but as they loaded him, his eyes opened, searching. He did not look at the paramedics. He did not look at Ava. His gaze found mine, and he held it. He was looking for me. He was looking for Lily. I did not leave the hospital. For 2 days, I sat in the surgical waiting room, my clothes stiff with Daniel's dried blood, while Lily slept on a row of hard plastic chairs. Ava Bloom stayed, too, coordinating with the hospital security and managing the press storm that had erupted outside. The surgeon, a tall man who looked exhausted, finally came out. He said the surgery was a success. The bullet had missed his spine and the aorta. It had punctured his lung, but it was, in his words, manageable. It did not feel manageable. It felt like the entire world had stopped, and I was the only one still holding my breath. They moved him to a private room on the top floor. I was the only visitor allowed. Besides his lawyer, Lily was with one of Ava's trusted officers in the cafeteria. I walked in. He was pale against the stark white pillows, an intravenous line feeding fluid into his arm. He looked smaller, vulnerable, stripped of the armor of his perfect suits. He opened his eyes when I entered. "You stayed," he said. His voice was a rough whisper. "I'm a nurse," I said, my voice quiet, avoiding the real reason. "I do not like leaving my patients unsupervised." A small, painful smile touched his lips. "You saved Sal. You saved me. You are a terrible security consultant, Rachel." "I'm not a consultant," I said. I pulled the small visitor's chair close to the bed. I am just here. We sat in the silence of the hospital, broken only by the quiet, rhythmic beep of his heart monitor. This is not sustainable, I whispered, the images of the ambush playing in my mind, the glass, the gunshot, his body falling over my daughter. This life, the bullets, the blood. I know, he said. He looked at his hands, lying on top of the sheets. When I was on that gurney, in the ambulance, I was not thinking about the port. I was not thinking about Volkov or Price. He paused, his throat working. I was looking for Lily, to make sure she was safe. He turned his head to look at me, his gaze clear and stripped of all pretense. It has to be slow and steady now. Rachel, no more explosions. While he healed, the world outside rearranged itself. Ava Bloom was relentless. Galen Price was indicted. The charges were staggering. Violations of the Racketeer, Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, conspiracy to commit mass murder, domestic terrorism. The media went insane. The billionaire philanthropist, the champion of green energy, was a monster. Nikolai Kite, facing a lifetime in a federal prison, became the star witness. He sang, detailing every transaction, every shell company, every whispered threat. Sergei Volkov, captured by Ava, was facing his own federal charges. And Marco Venti. Ava Bloom kept her word. Her team, using the information Daniel had given them, found Marco's mother and brother in a suburban house in New Jersey, unharmed. Marco was gone, swallowed by the Federal Witness Protection Program. About a week later, a letter arrived at Daniel's hospital room. It had been routed through his lawyer, who had been routed it by the Department of Justice. It was from Marco. Daniel was sitting up by then, the tube removed from his chest. He read the letter silently. Then he handed it to me. Marco's handwriting was shaky, desperate. Daniel, I do not expect forgiveness. I never will. I betrayed the code. I betrayed you, but you did not kill me. You saved my family. You chose my blood over your pride. I will spend the rest of my life repaying that debt. I am testifying. I am telling them everything. You are a better man than your father. You are a better man than me. Do not let them change you. Daniel watched me as I finished. He said nothing. He just took the letter back and folded it carefully. A better man, he said, his voice flat, looking out the high window at the city. That is a low bar. He picked up his phone from the bedside table. He made a call. It was to his new second-in-command, a man I had not met. The operations in Atlantic City, Daniel said, his voice quiet but firm. Shut them down. All of them. Tonight. He listened for a moment. I do not care about the loss and the sanitation contracts. I want an independent auditor, a real one, from a top 4 firm. I do not care what it costs. We are going clean. 100%. That is the new code. While Daniel was healing his company, I was trying to heal my daughter. Ava Bloom arranged it. A child psychologist, a woman with kind eyes and a soft voice who specialized in trauma. She met with Lily 3 times a week in a quiet office. Lily did not talk about the gunshots. She did not talk about the men at the bar. She talked about the piano. She talked about the smells of the kitchen. She talked about my fear. We moved. Ava helped us find a place. A quiet, 2-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side. It was not a fortress. It was just a home, with a doorman and neighbors who argued about recycling. The lease was in my name. Daniel's lawyer had arranged a stipend, a severance package from my consulting job that was large enough to cover us for years. It felt clean. Lily started at a new school. It was a private school, one known for its advanced language programs. Her gift was finally treated as a gift, not a liability. Our names, mine and Lily's, were sealed by a court order in the press. Lily was only ever the anonymous angel, the silent hero. We were ghosts. We were safe. One afternoon, I came to Daniel's room to tell him I was taking Lily home. He was sitting up, dressed in a real shirt, the first time I had seen him out of a hospital gown. He was on a video call. On the screen, an older woman, her hair wrapped in a black scarf, was weeping. It was Marco Venti's mother. "He is safe, Mrs. Venti," Daniel was saying, his voice gentle in a way I had never heard. "He is very safe, and so are you. The men who threatened your family are gone." "But my son, she wept. "He did a bad thing." "Your son is a good man who made a hard choice," Daniel said, his gaze steady. "He chose his family. I respect that. My company will ensure you are protected. For as long as you live, you have my word." He ended the call and saw me standing in the doorway. He looked almost embarrassed. "That," I said, "was an incredible kindness." He looked away, at the blank television screen. "It is just logistics," he said, deflecting. "It is systematic. She is an innocent. You protect the innocents." Daniel was discharged a few days later. He was thinner. The bullet had taken something from him, a layer of invincibility, but his eyes were clearer. The old world did not wait long. With Volkov and Price gone, a power vacuum had been created. "We are getting inquiries," his lawyer told him during a meeting at his new, much smaller apartment. He had insisted I be there. "The Albanians, the Irish out of Boston. They are probing. They see the port, the logistics, as weak. They think you are vulnerable." What are they expecting?" Daniel asked. He was standing, unable to sit comfortably for long. A war," his lawyer said flatly, "or a meeting to divide territory." "Fine," Daniel said. "Give them a meeting." He met them, but he did not meet them in a dark steakhouse or a warehouse. He met them in his lawyer's conference room, on the 48th floor, in the middle of the day, and he was not alone. Detective Ava Bloom sat at the end of the table. It was, as Ava told me later, the strangest meeting of her career. The rival bosses came in, expecting to negotiate percentages and shipping lanes. Instead, Daniel and Ava laid out the new rules. Moretti Logistics is a fully transparent, federally monitored entity, Ava announced, her voice bored. "We are partners in the new Cleanport initiative. Any attempt to interfere with Mr. Moretti's business, his trucks, or his containers will be met with a federal task force investigating, among other things, interstate commerce violations and tariff fraud." The rivals were stunned. This was not the Mafia Code. This was bureaucracy. It was bizarre. It was humiliating. It was brutally effective. They left, confused and utterly powerless. "You gave her a lot," I said to Daniel later, standing in his empty living room. "I gave her what she needed to build her case against Price," he said, "to get her full cooperation, to get Marco protected. I had to open my books, all of them." "The old ones?" I asked. He nodded. "I confessed to 3 counts of financial irregularity. Old business. My father's business. Things she could have spent years trying to prove, I gave them to her. Why, to build trust, he said. And I had one condition. Any investigation, any prosecution, stops with me. It does not touch my employees. It does not touch the people who are just doing their jobs. Protect the innocents. She agreed. Life began to find a new rhythm. It was slow, steady. My apartment became our center. One night, a month after the shooting, Daniel came to dinner. He did not bring a driver. He did not have a bodyguard. He walked from his apartment, 10 blocks away. He looked like a man, not a boss, in a dark sweater and jeans. I cooked. Lemon chicken. Simple. Real. Lily was at the small piano in the corner. Daniel had sent it over. It was not the grand, ancient piano from the penthouse. It was a simple upright, but the sound was sweet. She was playing River Flows in You. The music was soft, hesitant, but it was healing. We ate at my small kitchen table, the three of us. It felt impossibly normal. After dinner, when Lily was in bed, Daniel and I stood by the window, looking at the lights of the city. She is getting better, I said. The music helps. She is strong, he said, like her mother. I turned to him. The question that had been sitting in my heart for weeks, heavy as a stone, finally came out. This life, Daniel, I said, gesturing to the quiet room. This normal life, no bodyguards, no chaos, no wars. Is it enough for you? He looked at me, his gaze intense, searching. He reached out, not to grab me, not to control, but just to touch my arm. His touch was warm, real. It is not enough. Rachel, he said softly. My heart sank. I knew it. If it does not have you and Lily in it, he finished, his voice low. With you, it is everything. The next day, his lawyer called me. The Moretti Group was starting a charitable foundation. It was called the Safe Kitchens for Kids Fund. It was being endowed with the profits from the sale of Casa Valente, which Daniel had sold. He wants you to run it, the lawyer said. I am a nurse, I said, stunned. He is insistent. He wants you as the community health consultant. You will design the programs. You will teach nutrition, hygiene, safety. You will build it. It was a new door, a way to use my skills, not to patch up bullet wounds, but to build something, to feed people, to be clean. Our apartment on the Upper West Side was simple. It was not a penthouse, not a safe house. It was just a home. It had 2 bedrooms, slightly crooked floors, and a radiator that hissed in the mornings. It was on the 3rd floor of a pre-war building with a grumpy doorman named Sal. Not Daniel's Sal, who was now walking with a cane and managing logistics from a desk, but a new Sal, who just cared about packages and people tracking mud into his lobby. I had moved us in with 2 suitcases, the few things I had salvaged from my old apartment, and the check from Daniel's lawyer. Lily's new school was 6 blocks away. My new life was just beginning. Daniel did not live with us. He had not asked to. He lived 10 minutes away, in a quiet bachelor apartment that was, I suspected, just as sterile as his penthouse had been. But he did not spend much time there. He came over for dinner, 3, then 4 times a week. The first time he came, he was not empty-handed. He had arranged for the delivery of Lily's piano, the small upright I had seen in the store, and he brought a box. Inside was a simple, old wooden picture frame. In it was a black and white photo of a young woman with a stern face and kind eyes, standing in front of a small kitchen in what looked like Italy. "My grandmother," he said, "from Naples." He did not hang it in the main room. He helped me set up a corner for Lily. Her piano was against one wall, and a small, white child's table and chairs were next to it. It was her kitchen. He hung the photograph on the wall right above it. "She is the one with the clean hands rule?" I asked, handing him the hammer. "She is the one," he said, tapping the nail gently. "She believed you could not feed people. You could not build a family if you were not clean. She said kindness was the most important ingredient." He stepped back. The piano, the small kitchen, the picture of the woman from Naples. He had built a shrine to Lily, to her two great gifts, music and food, her two languages. We were slow. We were careful. This was not a whirlwind romance. I had seen whirlwind. It came with bullets and blood. This was a slow, deliberate construction of trust. We went on dates. We walked in Central Park. We got coffee. We sat in the back of dark movie theaters. He held my hand. His hand was large, warm and steady. There were no illusions. I knew what those hands were capable of. I also knew he had used them to shield my daughter. He did not push. He did not demand. He waited. He respected the boundary of my apartment, of my new life. He was letting me, and letting Lily, heal. He was letting us choose. My new job was my own salvation. The Safe Kitchens for Kids Fund was not just a title. It was a mission. I built a curriculum. I went into the kitchens of small, family-owned restaurants in the Bronx, in Queens, in Brooklyn, restaurants that could not afford expensive consultants. I am Rachel. I would say my hands bare. I am a nurse, not an inspector. I am here to help. Let us talk about cross-contamination. Let us talk about food temperatures. I taught them how to keep children safe. I taught them my language. Daniel's money paid for new refrigerators, for better ventilation, for non-porous steel tables. He never showed up. His name was only on the check. He stood in the background, a silent partner, giving me the one thing I had never had the power to fix the problem before it became an emergency. The world outside kept spinning. Galen Price was convicted. The RICO charges stuck. The image of the green billionaire was destroyed, replaced by the reality of a sociopath who had tried to poison a city for profit. He was sentenced to life in a federal supermax prison. Sergei Volkov was transferred to the same facility. His network was shattered. His name became a ghost story. And Lily's name was never spoken. Ava Bloom had buried her file so deep, under so many layers of judicial seals, that the anonymous angel remained just that, a whisper, a mystery. Our safety was absolute, bought by Daniel's confessions and Ava's integrity. It was a Tuesday night. It was raining, a cold, miserable rain, just like the night at Casa Valente. It had been months. The city was settling into winter. I was in my small kitchen. I heard a knock. It was Daniel. He was holding a brown paper bag. "I brought dinner," he said, smiling. He was smiling more. The lines of stress around his eyes were softer. He walked into my kitchen, took off his coat. He did not bring takeout. He brought ingredients: flour, eggs, potatoes, ricotta. "Daniel." "No," I whispered. "Yes," he said, his voice soft. "It is time." He washed his hands. He was meticulous. He rolled up his sleeves. I watched him, this man who had run the city's underworld, as he began to press potatoes through a ricer. My grandmother, he said, taught me this before she taught me to read. It is simple. It is about the feel. You cannot force it. He made the dough. He worked quickly, his hands light. He did not look like a boss. He looked like a man in a kitchen, making dinner for his family. Lily came out, drawn by the smell. "What is that?" she asked. "Gnocchi," Daniel said. He smiled at her. "The real kind, not the kind that comes with bad men." She sat at the table, watching him. He let her roll one of the small pillows of dough off the back of a fork. She laughed when it curled perfectly. We ate at my small kitchen table, the three of us. The gnocchi was light, like clouds, in a simple sage and butter sauce. It was the best thing I had ever tasted. Lily ate, her eyes bright. She looked at Daniel, who was watching me. She put her fork down. She smiled, a small, secret smile. "What is it, baby?" I asked. I hear something," she whispered. My body tensed, a reflex. "What do you hear?" I asked. She looked at Daniel, then at me. "I hear Italian," she said. "From the picture. Grandma, she is speaking Italian." Daniel stopped eating. "What is she saying? Lily?" Lily smiled. She said, "Famiglia," family. My eyes filled with tears. I looked at Daniel. He was watching me, his gaze so full of love, so full of patience, that it took my breath away. Our new life was not a fairy tale, and I knew that. When Daniel had arrived, I had seen a dark car parked across the street. It was not one of his men, it was one of Ava Bloom's, a discreet, permanent, protective detail. And when Daniel left, a car I recognized as belonging to his company would quietly follow him home. He was still audited. He was still a man with a past. But the trust was real. It was not built on a single, grand gesture. It was built on repeated actions. It was built on him showing up, night after night, with clean hands. It was built on him teaching my daughter how to cook, not how to hide. It was built on him choosing me, choosing her, choosing this quiet, simple life, every single day. He had learned that true power was not about showing strength. It was not about controlling the ports or winning a war. It was about protecting the fragile. It was about feeding a child. Later, after Lily was asleep, he walked me to the door. We stood in the quiet hallway of my apartment building. "I should go," he said. "You should," I said. He did not move. He looked at me, at my mouth, and then back to my eyes. He was asking permission. I stepped closer to him. He put his hand on my cheek, his thumb gently brushing my skin. It was not a kiss of fire, or desperation, or need. It was not the kind of kiss from the Mafia stories, full of possession and anger. It was slow. It was warm. It was a promise. It was a kiss that tasted like home, like sage, like butter, like safety. It was a kiss that promised tomorrow. He pulled back, just an inch. "I choose people," he whispered. "I will always choose you." He had chosen people first, every time. And standing there, in the hallway of my normal apartment, in my normal life, I finally, completely chose him back. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I am so curious to know where in the world you are tuning in from. Please, let me know in the comments. I love to see how far these stories travel, and to share your thoughts. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing to my channel, Mafia Boss Stories, and give this video a like. It really helps. And if you want to give it an extra boost, hit that hype button. It helps more people discover this story, and I would be so grateful.